to socialmediaexplorer.com and Social Media Explorer TV. Talked to Katie Paine about Katie Paine Partners and the DIY dashboard. But Katie and I go back and forth a lot on social media measurement and social media monitoring, especially with regards to how do you prove return on investment, ROI, on social media. And so I thought it'd be fun to kind of turn the camera on and roll up the sleeves a little bit and have that discussion here. So Katie, tell us what's the answer to that? How do you prove ROI for social media investment?
Well, the first thing is you got to define the R, because if the return is I want to lower turnover by having more engaged employees, then you got to measure turnover lowering. If the purpose is influence, you probably want to see the degree to which your influence is spreading throughout your marketplace, the degree to which your agenda is being said about out there. The big thing is that ROI is not defined in social media in terms of eyeballs or in terms of numbers. And at your session at PRSA, somebody asked, what's the standard metric for blogs? And there's not going to be one, because first of all, the standard monitoring people do not necessarily agree on how to do it. Secondly, there's wide differentiation between how things are counted and whether they're counted at all. I mean, some small blog like katiepayne.blogs.com, I'm never going to get picked up on Compete or ComScore or anything like that. On the other hand, I am going to get picked up from time to time on Shell Israel's blog that might then get picked up on, something bigger. So it's not in terms of eyeballs. It's are you reaching the right eyeballs, and more importantly is are you engaging those eyeballs? Are they coming back again? Are they becoming regular readers? Are they engaging with your brand in such a way that's going to do some return eventually?
Okay, so what do you say to the CEO or the chief marketing officer or the marketing manager who says, yes, but we're spending $150,000, $250,000, $50,000, whatever it is, on social media programming, and my boss wants to see a line drawn between that number and what we're getting back, what we're selling, what we're making, how much money we're bringing in? How do you answer that?
That's easy. That's basically, it's called analytics, and it's not, it might be web analytics combined with some of your media analysis of what's actually been going on, but that's just simple correlations. I mean, SPSS and SAS, basic market research does that all the time. The problem is you have to have the activity level, you have to know what the return is that you're trying to get. So if you say, I want more sales, you have to be able to do some kind of marketing mix modeling study that says that, okay, I spent this $150,000 and my market share increased, and I've now accounted for all those other things out there so that I can, in fact, attribute it to social media. I would argue that very few people are saying, I'm doing social media to sell stuff. Most of the time, they can't even articulate a reason for doing it, and when they do articulate a reason, it's things like, I want to join the conversation, which is great. I think that's a perfectly viable goal. But then you have to see the degree to which you're actually being part of that conversation. Are people talking about you? Are you responding, etc.? Is your brand out there? So I mean, I think it really depends upon. Here's the line up here. This is easy. The question is, what are you really trying to get? What's the bottom line impact? And it's not eyeballs. That's the thing. It's just most people think, oh, well, if I can count that I've reached 1 million eyeballs, that's return, and it's not anymore because it doesn't matter.
Right. So I made this analogy on Twitter, and I'll articulate it more with the text that goes around with this post. But I basically said that measuring a sales return on investment in social media is like trying to take multiple choice metrics and apply them to an essay question.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, it's again, you can the things that you can measure in social media easily and beautifully are the conversation, the nature of the conversation, your positioning, the relationships you're establishing with your marketplace. There's all kinds of good stuff you can do. You can measure, but it is not a multiple choice question. I mean, it is very frequently, I'm looking at all of these different things, and now I'm also going to look at my web analytics scorecard that says that yes, I'm driving traffic to my website, and from there people are actually becoming members of my website, downloading stuff, giving me their email address. I mean, it's like my blog. I mean, does my blog direct, does somebody go to my blog, read my blog, and call me up and say I want to use Katie Paine and Partners to measure stuff? No. What happens is people read my blog, they say, oh, she'd be a good speaker. I go to a conference, I get a business card, somebody says a year later, oh, I remember you from the speech. I need some measurement, but it's not a direct line at all. It's a much more complicated process, as it always has been.
I think she just agreed with me on every complaint I've ever had about social media measurement and monitoring, which is very cool. I like that. Okay, so to the point of defining reachable goals with social media, from a measurement metrics expert standpoint, what would you say to the marketing manager who wants to get involved with social media, or the CEO even who wants to get involved with social media? What would you recommend their expected outcomes to measure would be, so that they know those outcomes going in?
I would say that you should start with what is your share of the conversation, because frankly, if you're not in it, your competition's in it. So you need to know how big a share the competition has and how big a share you have. Then you need to know the tone of the conversation. Are the people recommending your brand, or people recommending the competition? We did a study where we found that after years and years and years of studying traditional media and traditional reviews, product reviews, turns out that social media structured review sites like Amazon and BizRate and stuff like that had a much more direct impact on sales than traditional media outreach to reviewers, to technical reviewers. So what that said was, that's a much more direct connection. You're saying, okay, recommendations, but unless you know that you're getting your fair share of recommendations, unless you know that you're getting your fair share of discussion out there, you're not going to know whether it's actually having an impact, because you're not going to know it's there. So you have to start monitoring, then you have to start measuring, which means evaluating the content, and then you get to tie it back to either web analytics, downloads, or something more tangible.
I think the last thing I'll ask you, I actually said to a group that I spoke to in Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago that social media thinkers, I don't want to say the word experts, but social media people owe the business community a little bit better explanation of ROI, and they need to do a little bit better job of figuring out, what the cost per eyeball or cost per engagement or whatever. I think there needs to be new advertising models for online advertising executions as well. But I basically said to them, kind of a mea culpa, we owe you a little bit better than what we're giving you now. So where do you see and that's my opinion, maybe that's not your opinion, but where do you see the innovation coming? What's the next big connection that's going to help solidify that solid line that goes from spend to return?
Well, actually, the scary thing is it's not the innovation, it's throwing out all the old ways of thinking. The old way of thinking was based on a model that said, if I buy a certain number of eyeballs, I can sell a certain amount of shampoo. And Procter & Gamble knows that because they've been doing it that way for 50 years. And so is every other consumer packaged good company. So they think, oh, well, if I buy 1 million eyeballs in social media, I expect to sell 1,000 bottles of shampoo. Well, first of all, you can't buy 1,000 eyeballs. You have to earn them. You have to engage. And it's not about that. There's no proof that there's that direct connection between the eyeballs and the action. So you have to throw out that entire thought process and say, wait a minute, eyeballs don't matter. Because you can count directly what people are doing. Are they going to your site? I had a wonderful conversation with the folks at Discovery Channel, and they said, oh, well, it's all about the ratings. I said, why do ratings matter? Ratings matter because of eyeballs. People are making that assumption. You can show people, because of the Discovery website, you can blog and Twitter, and then people go directly to your site and buy stuff. Now, wouldn't you rather measure people buying stuff and how much stuff they're buying than this indirect measure of eyeballs.
Absolutely.
That's the other.
She's brilliant, and I read her blog, and I love her stuff, and I'm glad I finally got to meet her and talk to her about this. And if you follow both of us on Twitter, we'll go back and forth and barb each other all the time on this, but I think the discussion that we have and the discussion other people have with her and that she has with other people and so on and so forth is what's going to make social media measurement and monitoring much better going forward. Lots of innovations coming out to make it happen, but she's right. We've got to retrain our thinking. And I will challenge you CMOs and marketing folks out there, if you think spending X amount of dollars on social media should equate to X amount of dollars in sales, tell me how many dollars in sales you generated from that one billboard you bought in San Francisco last year. Show me that number and I'll show you a social media equation that's the same thing. Thanks to Katie for joining us. Katie, tell us where we can find you online.
KatiePaine.com and KatiePaine.blogs.com, and I'm on Twitter at Katie Paine.
Very good. Thanks for stopping by and talking to us.
Thank you.
Katie Paine, I'm Jason Falls. This is SocialMediaExplorer.com and Social Media Explorer TV. But then again, you knew that.